We've all heard of the popular web series Squid Game, the one where rich elites force desperate individuals to play deadly games for their amusement. But what if I told you something even darker, more horrifying, and very real happened in South Korea during the 1980s? Yes, this is not fiction. It's a grim reality where over 38,000 people were exploited every single day. Let's uncover this haunting story. The year was 1975. South Korea, having gained independence 30 years earlier, was rapidly modernizing. The government was eager to host the Olympics, wanting to showcase the nation's progress to the world. But the streets were filled with the homeless, orphans, and the destitute, which the government saw as a major obstacle to achieving its goal. These vulnerable people were considered an eyesore that needed to be erased. In an attempt to clean up the streets, the government decided to round up the homeless and send them to social welfare centers, promising food, shelter, and basic necessities. At first glance, this seemed like a noble idea, but the reality was far from it. Officials and police began forcibly detaining these people, anyone who looked poor or homeless, and transporting them to these welfare centers. One such facility was Brothers Home in Busan. Over the years, this place earned a reputation as hell on earth. As thousands of people were crammed into Brothers Home, its director, Park In-gyun, saw an opportunity for profit. A clothing factory was set up within the facility, and detainees were forced to work 12-hour shifts without pay. These weren't volunteers, they were prisoners of circumstance. Those who refused to work were brutally beaten with iron rods by security guards. Many were beaten to the point of death, but even death wasn't the end of their suffering. The facility's staff would either burn the bodies to hide the evidence or harvest their organs to sell to nearby hospitals. Even for those who followed orders, life was a nightmare. They were given barely enough food to survive and were crammed into tiny, overcrowded spaces with little to no hygiene. But this was just the beginning. The facility's director took the exploitation to a new level by inviting wealthy individuals to visit. These visitors were allowed to treat the detainees however they pleased. They forced the detainees to participate in violent and torturous games for their entertainment. Some detainees were beaten mercilessly. Others were turned into personal slaves. Women in the facility suffered the worst. Many were raped, regardless of age. Afterward, they were forced to undergo abortions and were threatened with violence to ensure their silence. As if that wasn't enough, detainees were sold off for money. Wealthy buyers could pay to take anyone they wanted, treating them as property. This horrific exploitation continued for 12 years. Over time, some detainees managed to escape and expose the horrifying reality of Brothers Home to the world. In 1987, a police and media investigation uncovered the atrocities. The findings revealed that over 38,000 people had been detained at Brothers Home. At least 657 deaths were documented, many due to abuse, malnutrition, or outright murder. And yet, justice was never served. Director Park In-gyun received a mere 2-year prison sentence for his crimes. The wealthy individuals who committed unspeakable acts against the detainees faced no consequences at all. This dark chapter in history was quietly closed, and the survivors' voices were silenced. What do you think about this horrifying reality? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.